Welcome to LASA, Learning Algorithms and Systems Laboratory at EPFL, or Swiss Federal Institute of Technology in Lausanne. So we are part of Impact-Aware Manipulation EU project, and we'll be discussing three scenarios. One of the scenarios is quickly pushing or hitting an object, and the other two scenarios are dual arm manipulation for fast grabbing and tossing and fast grabbing and placing of an object. I'm Harshit, a PhD candidate at the same lab, and I'll be discussing quickly pushing an object or hitting an object, and a colleague of mine, Michael, will be discussing the other two scenarios. First, let me show you the setup we have here. We have KUKA LPR arms, IVA 7 and IVA 14, which behave as a dual arm system as well if centrally or decentrally controlled. We have a conveyor belt, a box of known shape, size, mass, and we are surrounded by a mocap system consisting of prime 17W cameras. So let's talk about hitting or quickly pushing an object and why is it used. So there's a lot of prior research on pushing an object, but what pushing does is it limits the motion of the object inside the physical workspace of the robot, and the contact between the robot and the object is established at zero relative velocity or an almost zero relative velocity. This is called the quasi-static assumption. But when we hit an object, we have the capability of placing the object outside the physical workspace of the robot. And because of this, the contact established is at a non-zero relative speed, which means there is no quasi-static assumption in this case. Now, when you hit an object, you cannot control the motion of the object after it has been hit. But what we can control is the way it has been hit. The way we are hitting object is by controlling the hitting speed and the hitting direction of where we want the robot to hit the object. So we propose a learning-based approach for learning how to hit the object and a dynamical system-based motion generation that produces the hitting motion from the robot, which ends up hitting the object. So how do we do this? First, we do a lot of experiments where we hit a shape, a known object in different directions with different hitting speeds and in different directions. And then we collect this data. This data consists of hitting speed, hitting directions, and relative displacement of the object. And we fit a Gaussian mixture model to this data. Now, in real life, what we need is, once we know a desired position of the object or desired final position of the object, we want to predict how do we hit the object. So we are given a desired final position, and we use a Gaussian mixture regression to figure out from the data collected the hitting speed and the hitting direction of the object. So once we know the hitting speed, how do we actually generate this motion? This is where dynamical systems come in. We are using a combination of linear dynamical systems that produce a stable motion and pass through the center of mass or a point through the object so that we confirm that the robot's going to hit the object. And hence, we produce a stable motion that hits the object with a given desired hitting velocity and hitting direction. Further, we'll show you the experiment that depicts the hitting motion and places the object outside the physical workspace of the robot.
Let's talk about the second project. My name is Michael Bombile. I'm a PhD candidate at LASA and working on I.AM project. As mentioned earlier, another project that we're considering in impact-aware manipulation is fast object grabbing and release. We are considering using it with a dual arm system, which is a pair of two robotic hands that are controlled in coordination to achieve manipulation tasks. This is particularly interesting, especially in case where we have an object that is too heavy to be carried by a single robot, or a task that is too complex for a single robot to do it alone. The main goal of this research is to exploit controlled impact with an object to speed up the grabbing process for a manipulation task. This is crucial for industry, for instance in logistics, where there is a need to speed up the pick and place operations. In current pick and place operation, the robot usually picks and releases objects with near zero contact velocity to avoid impact and therefore avoid instabilities related to impact. One solution to speed up the process could be to minimize unnecessary deceleration phases between the peak and the place. And this can be done, for instance, by removing, at least overcoming, the quasi-static assumption currently used and move toward a dynamic approach where robots can grab and release object product with non-zero contact velocities. To that end, we are exploring robot controllers that are aware of impact and leverage them to accomplish desired tasks. For instance, the controller must ensure that the contact velocity have appropriate magnitude and directions, not only with respect to the contact surface, but also with respect to the desired motion of the object after it is being grasped. Therefore, we propose an algorithm that allows robots to perform dynamic grab with a dual arm system with non-zero tangential velocity in direction of the desired motion of the object after being grasped. And the coordination of the robot is ensured by using dynamical systems, which are known for their instantaneous replanning abilities and also robustness to perturbation. The interaction forces that help stabilize the graph and also perform the internet task are generated using quadratic programming, which enforce explicitly the contact constraint. Quadratic programming is also used in this case to make sure that the robot stay within the hardware limits and keep the robot and the object also safe from being damaged. To validate our study, we have the fast object grabbing and place scenario. So in that experiment, the dual arm system picked the object and move it and put it on the conveyor belt. In the second scenario, we consider the two-arm system swiftly grab the object instead of placing it on the conveyor belt, toss it on the conveyor belt or in a basket. In this particular case of tossing, it extends the robot workspace by allowing the object to be placed beyond the physical boundary of the robot.